Two things can be true at the same time. The NFL Combine is overanalyzed, and players can improve their draft stock. We dive into the risers and fallers after the NFL Combine. Plus, we'll award a grade to Rob Pizzola on his first mock draft of the year. All that and so much more on Forward Progress. Welcome to Forward Progress, Draft Risers and Fallers. I'm George Tsilfidis, Director of Marketing at The Hammer and host of Forward Progress. And today I'm joined by Austin Mock from The Athletic, contributor here at The Hammer on Forward Progress. And he was at the Combine. We are presented by FanDuel. Austin, so nice to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to overanalyze the Combine, as we always do every year.
You know what? People love to pretend like the Combine it's who cares? The underwear Olympics. And it's like, no. Sometimes you see a freak athlete and you have to make adjustments. And it works out. And we've seen it over the past. And we'll go through examples of like guys that raised their profile. And frankly, I think there's disqualifiers when a guy is not a great athlete. Now, caveats, certain positions, like safety, where, you don't have to be the absolute best athlete. I wouldn't put in too much stock, but, running backs, receivers, I kind of want a certain profile, right? I either want a certain height, speed. For O-linemen, I care about arm length for the first time in my life, but these things, we can't disqualify these things as not being important, right?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is you'll see a lot of posts out there about this being the fastest Combine ever, each position. There is a little bit of an asterisk with that because a lot of the slower players are choosing not to run. And another key aspect of this is all context driven, right? You have to compare it to the film. You have to compare it to their play speed. And that's where I think the next step, people are talking about how do we get more participation in the Combine? Put those GPS, like they have GPS when the wide receivers run the gauntlet. They have the GPS for when the running backs do their drills, and we see the, miles per hour and all that. I think that's the way we get the step forward. But yes, this is one piece of the puzzle, but you can improve. I mean, it's marketing. It's marketing 101, right? Like you're going to get your name everywhere. You're probably people are going to look into you and they're going to be like, yo, there is that athleticism. So
yeah, I was listening to one of those, I think it was The Athletic actually. And Dane is talking about sometimes a guy who maybe you haven't watched a ton of film on just blazes and you're like, okay, I got to throw some film on. I'm thinking like Decario Davis, Ephesians Price Suck. Guys are like projected day 3 late corners and they like blaze. And it reminds me of, when Tariq Woolen and Zion McCullough like ripped the Combine and they went from like day 3 to like, okay, 4th rounders, 5th rounder, like, too good of a physical profile that we can't ignore it. And I think some of that stuff's really important. And then one thing you said about, fastest Combine ever because guys are not running drills. If you're not running and you're healthy, man, is that not an indictment of I don't have confidence that I have the athletic skills? Like, what would be a valid reason not to if you're healthy?
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you put on, like, I'll go back to, like, I know Xavier Worthy wanted to set the record, but like someone like him where you just knew on tape that it was there. But like Brennan Thompson, who had the 4.26 this year, fastest at any position.
Yes.
Like that was, you brought up Dane. Like that was his pick like a couple weeks ago for the fastest guy. And he went out there and was like, I'm going to prove it. And so it's something like, I guess if you're a guy who shows it like nonstop, or maybe, like maybe offensive tackle, like 40 doesn't really matter, but also the 10-yard split is pretty important,
Yes.
So like that's the other aspect of this. And I get it. Like nobody did the agilities this year. So like, I don't know how we find a way to get the 3-cone and shuttle back into it, but yeah, if you're healthy, it goes back into like these interview process. I feel like going out like Sonny Styles, a lot of these Ohio State guys did a lot. And so like, does that show that you're like more open to it? I don't know. Well, I'm not a scout. I'm not in the personnel department, but I think it's definitely something.
It's pretty sad. I think like only 2 edge rushers did the 3-cone. Although one of the
It
guys
blew
did
my
it.
mind.
Yeah, one of the guys who did it was fantastic. He was a sub 7 3 cone, and I'm like, all right, your profile goes up, and the fact that nobody else did it, I'm gonna give you even more props.
And it's funny too because yeah, sure, like David Bailey, Ardell Reese, Ruben Bain are the three, but like after that,
Yes,
there's not a edge four that's like Cassius Howe is probably that guy, but like it's not something that's like okay, nobody can catch Cassius Howe. Like if you go in there and put up a 6'8" 3 cone at 250 pounds, like you're gonna shoot up. And that's one of those things. Like I'm just interested. Like I don't know if people just go to the pro days. The pro days times the colleges are always stopping that clock a little early there. But I was it made me mad the 3 cone because for edge rushers it's awesome. I know they do other drills. I know, but it was interesting to me to not see like anybody in the edge group do the 3 cone.
100%. One of the bigger disappointments. That being said, we got a banger right out the gate, and we'll start with risers. Austin, it was the first day of the combine. It was the defensive linemen and linebackers, and my goodness, Sonny Styles. First of all, 6'5", 240, a beast of a man, goes out there. I think he starts with like a 43.5-inch vertical. It's never been done for a man his weight. Then he blows like an 11-foot, 2-inch broad jump. And then he follows up with a 4.46 40-yard dash. And now it becomes, and I know you and I were talking all weekend in our group chat, how high do we take an off-ball linebacker who's clearly like a very special athlete, but it's not a premium position? And yet, I think his stock, like I thought he was a borderline top 10 guy in that 8 to 12 range. And now I think there's no way he's falling out of the top 10. And I don't even think he's getting past 7, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, he had some pretty decent buzz before the combine. I do our consensus big board. He was 7th. He moved up from 10th from the previous in January when I did it. So he was already catching some buzz. So this is where one of those things like how much buzz, how much can he rise? Like I think he definitely is a riser. You might not see it on some people's big boards. I think Dane Brugler had him 5th in his latest. So like it's almost at the point where like can he make his stock higher? And I think he somehow did.
Yes.
With his explosive numbers. So yeah, the agility numbers weren't amazing. They were pretty average. So that is something to get. But again, he did everything. So like credit to Sonny Styles and being fully available. But yeah, it goes back to it. The agility numbers weren't great. So like, are what's his ceiling as like a pass rusher? Can you I've seen people saying, let's put him as an edge rusher. Like, I don't know if he is that type. He came into Ohio State as a safety. He's never really done it. When you're a linebacker, if you come up as a linebacker, you're playing near the line of scrimmage. That a lot of that stuff is like second nature to you at this point. Where if you come in as a safety, it's a little bit different. So I think that's one of the big keys in trying to evaluate what he can become. Can he become that big nickel? Does he have the coverage skills to do that? Can he rush the passer and bring some value there? But yeah, no denying the athleticism, and hopefully he can become a sideline to sideline linebacker. But that position, you're not getting the surplus value when you're drafting him at what 7, 6, whatever, wherever he might go.
Yeah.
Really hard. He basically has to hit immediately to even like really
Oh,
justify.
he's got to be a Pro Bowl. He's got to play at a Pro Bowl level immediately. I was thinking about it because he's got 33-inch arms. I said, okay, maybe he's not Micah Parsons, where you turn him into an edge. What if he's Dante Hightower, where he's an off-ball linebacker, but he will blitz enough where you can actually use some of his athleticism? If he's not a great cover option, then maybe he's the 5th blitzer, or you play him in a NASCAR package on 3rd down. And I think maybe that's the best way to utilize Sonny Styles at the next level.
Yeah, and like I think it's kind of tough to use him just because of Baron Browning was a comp that he was 6'3", 245, had 33.5-inch arms, and linebacker didn't work out for him, so they moved him to edge, and he before injuries kind of took over, he was a useful edge rusher. So that's kind of, I guess, like the comparison. Can he be the blitzer? That's one of those things you just have to kind of learn it on the fly. Like you just never, it's hard to, from camp, like training camp, are you going to be able to say like, hey, he can be that guy? And then I think that also gets into the conversation of like, is it worth taking the guy of like, hey, we're drafting him as a linebacker. Hopefully he'll be this 3-down guy, but we have to move him in the 3rd down, which is like the hardest. I would say like I guess more, yeah, sure. You can change your personnel packages and whatnot, but like, are you really taking a guy top 10 if you have to make personnel changes
Mm.
on the money down, with your defense? So it'll be interesting. I'm fascinated to see kind of how he goes. Like, does he fly up into the top 5 of a lot of these big boards? Will he be a top 5 pick? I don't think he can go that high, but maybe somebody loves the traits. I don't know.
I still think we're gonna see QB 2 edges in the top 5 and 2 offensive tackles, but we'll move on because one of the conversations was I remember in the group chat how it was Monroe Freeling tests, and Austin, he's just a monster of a man, 35-inch arms, 6'7", 315. And then I remember for the first time I said, I think this guy might go ahead of Spencer Fano in the top 10. And then you said top 10. And I said, yeah, I think you might even go as high as top 6. And then Austin, within an hour, we got a 33.5-inch vertical from this man, a 9'7" broad jump, and then we got a 4.93 40-yard dash, probably the second most athletic offensive tackle according to relative athletic score. Monroe Freeling, I wish there was an active who's the first offensive tackle drafted, because he would have probably gone in with like the 4th or 5th best odds, and he would have steamed after the combine because he had a hell of a showing.
Yeah, so he was I heard his name 3 weeks leading up and I was like, okay, he's that typical. There's always some guy that gets buzzed in January, for whatever reason. And he kind of, I don't know if it kind of reminds me of Amarius Mims, where like this tape wasn't, but like,
Yes.
Offensive tackle, definitely left tackle, is one of those positions where it's like, man, like this guy has the body. Like there's not a lot of people that have the body, the athleticism to be like, this guy has there's some prospects, like, I don't know if he can ever become a top 5 left tackle,
Yeah.
but he has the body, the athleticism and everything. So this is one of those ones where the tape might be like, okay, the tape wasn't great on him, or it wasn't, first round, but the measurables, the athleticism, and, give him a couple more years to blossom. But it's funny when you mentioned the group chat, like when you said the top 6 thing, I was like, oh, I know he was coming in with some hype. And then like literally within an hour, because of all of his stats, I was like, okay, yeah, I believe it. Like he's for sure top 15 pick. Like literally within an hour, I think there's like a couple messages in there you could timestamp where I'm like, yes. Okay, yep, he's full blown top 15 after this, because it was just like every 15 minutes it was like the Monroe Freeling show. It was just like, well, you just did something insane again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's going to be a lot of mocks with him at 6. I don't know. Is there a chance that he goes, 4? Is that in? I don't know. Like we'll see. But he's going to be an interesting one, because he could be 12, he could be 6, he could be 15. But I lean towards premium position. He could be a very, very high ceiling. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
It reminds me of like Charles Cross kind of like snuck into the draft when it was the Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu draft, and last year Armand Membu, and I'm like, okay, there's no way. It's gonna be, everyone's gonna look at this and say top 10 pick. Not gonna knock him on it. Now he's not the only guy who made himself some money. You mentioned, we know there's a big 3 pass rushers, and we kind of had an idea who the 4th or 5th guy, and that might change because of arm length, but 2 guys, and I want to pair them together. Malachi Lawrence and Danny Dennis Sutton. So I was looking at Dane Brugler's big board. He had one of them, a Danny Dennis Sutton, in the 60s, and he had Malachi Lawrence in the 90s. Other big boards didn't even have Malachi Lawrence in the top 100. And one other big board, I think it was PFF, had Danny Dennis Sutton in the 90s. So I've been doing mock drafts for weeks now, and every draft I came out with Danny Dennis Sutton, I said, because I get a early hint on who the freaks are going to be, and I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to test so well. There's no way he's going to be a 3rd round player. After this, it reminds me of, do you remember when Boye Mafe kind of ripped up the combine, or like Arnold Ebiketie, and it's like, okay,
yep,
too athletic to fall out of the 2nd round. That's kind of where I'm landing now. I think mid to late second is probably where they're both going to end up going.
Yeah, what's interesting about Dennis Sutton is that he played behind Abdul Carter last year, had a good year. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So, like, everybody turned towards this year. It was like, hey, he's going to have a good year. And the first half of the year, he kind of wasn't there. It wasn't working out. They had a new defense coordinator. Obviously Penn State seasons went off the rails as well. So his stock went from like, okay, hey, this guy can play himself into a first rounder. And then it fell to like, maybe he's a third rounder. Can he stay on day 2? And I think it's like the seesaw action here is now you test and it's like, holy cow. Like I do my own, like, it's similar to relative athletics where I adjust. I have a model that adjusts for height and weight. Like he was the most impressive combine. Granted, it's hard. I don't only pick guys who do their 40. I throw them out, but like he did a lot, had a great 3-cone score. He was awesome. Like that was one of the best, 256 pounds. I think he was 6'6.5" or something like that. That is you want to talk about ceilings. Like that's the prototype edge that you want that can stay on the field early downs.
Yes.
This isn't a James Pierce Jr., smaller rusher type. Like that's why Pierce, because they didn't know if he could play against the run. So Malachi Lawrence, same thing. Like a freak athlete, size is there. Like can they be the 3-down edges, which is super, super valuable. You can't let those guys go to the day 3.
No. Both of them 40-inch verticals, both just under 11-foot broad jumps, like just absurd numbers. Here's another one. This is like one of my personal favorites because I shoot a video with Rob last Tuesday and we start talking about who's the second running back in this class. We said it's Jeremiah Love's one, and as a whole, the running back class was fast. And Jadarian Price, who's some people think he's the second guy, he actually ran quite fast too. And I said to Rob, I go, there's a guy named Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas. And I had heard rumblings. He's 6'1", 220. And I had heard rumblings that he's going to run a 4.4. Well, Austin, I was wrong. He actually ran a 4.33 at 6'1", 220 pounds. In college, he was 97th percentile in yards after contact. So he's already plays physical. He literally became the number 1 athlete we've ever seen at running back. His speed scores through the roof. Man, I don't think he's going to be the second running back taken. But when I said that, Austin, he was in like the 150 range in big boards. And I'm like, no. This guy's too. There's no way. You can't teach his power and speed combo. It's too rare.
Yeah, he was not in my consensus top 100 heading into the combine. I am decently confident that he'll find his way. I don't think he'll go super high, but he'll find his way into that. It's just one of those. Again, like this is how you can. Like it goes back to kind of what you just said. Like, okay, hey, this guy's gonna run, and then like let me go look at the tape or the metrics, whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, he has. It's not like he, had 100 carries and only ran for 400 yards or something like that. Like if you can add in the film and everything, it's where you kind of marry the two. Like there's a bunch of guys. Like I know like Nicholas Singleton from Penn State. He had a down year, but he's another guy who is like going to be pushing 220 pounds that I think was going to run in the 4.4s. Like, I don't know if he broke his foot in the Senior Bowl, so I don't know if we'll ever get a 40 time for him, but it's a weird running back class where there's not a lot of options, but like the day three running backs, this actually where we were like the running back positions devalued and like Kenneth Walker and Saquon Barkley last 2 years, maybe like people will start paying, but like people are going to be throwing darts on day 3 and there's probably going to be some good ones and it's going to like snap back really quick. So it'll be interesting to see who comes up with all these fast running backs in this draft.
I see a bunch of third down spell scat backs in this draft. But I look at a guy like Mike Washington and I'm like, if you're Baltimore and you're thinking of the future Derrick Henry and play style, if you can get Mike Washington early 4th round or late 3rd, you might be tempted, right? To have because as much as they like, who's that fast running back? But they won't play him enough. They don't trust him with the volume.
Keaton Mitchell?
Keaton Mitchell. Yeah. As much as they like him, they don't trust him with the full workload. And I'm like, Mike Washington Jr. might be an interesting player in that position. Those are the risers, and there was a lot more, but we kind of stuck out to like 5 guys who made themselves more money at the combine. Like Monroe Freeling, Austin, he made himself like he moved up about 10 to 15 spots within an hour of his testing. Right? Just like that guy made himself some money.
Yeah, there were teams in the like 18 to 32, the playoff teams that were like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll be able to get a free tackle late and a little bit of a project. And like you say, in that hour, it was like, nope, top 12. Like
Cleveland went from like maybe the 24th pick to, all right, we might have to start considering him at pick 6. Like that encapsulates where Monroe.
You want to talk about what can change. And like, again, maybe it's overreacting, whatever it is, but that is what happens when you're at the combine with definitely those players that you can see the athleticism.
Yeah.
And then they surprise you on how athletic, like, okay, this is a good athlete. I actually know this is a great elite athlete. You can jump. I think he'll be the biggest. I think he's the biggest jumper because he was low enough on boards. I don't think anybody will be passing him up.
Yeah, we were talking about the tackle class before. Is like, okay, there's like 2 top 15 guys and then like a bunch of late firsts. And now I heard Daniel Jeremiah saying there might be 7 or 8 tackles because like the tackle from Clemson that he liked, Blake Miller, and then Maxi Inochor is another one that like
he had a really good combine.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, you know, that offensive tackle class kind of got pushed.
It happens every year or two.
Yeah,
like it's a premium position thing. Like this is what's funny to me about the like when running backs go early, linebackers. You know what? It's like the playoff teams are the ones that, you know, maybe there's something there. These teams in the back half of the draft, I know the 5th-year option thing is big as well with offensive linemen being like later developers, but like here they are. It's like, well, you know what? This guy could be a top 5 left tackle in the league. Like that is kind of his ceiling. That'd be a nice, you know, and if it doesn't work out, we can maybe he can play some guard for us too. And like, we'll figure, like, it happens every year. It's like, this offensive tackle class isn't great. And then it's like, well, we had 7 go in the first round. Like, oh, okay.
This is how it happens always. Listen, we'll get into the fallers of the draft, and we're also going to pick apart Rob's top 10, or I know we'll give him some kudos. But listen, basketball fans, it's almost time for the Super Trade Day sweepstakes. FanDuel is all about those 3-pointer moments. And on March 3rd, that's right, that's today, 3 threes, you'll have your own shot at a big win from downtown. Place a 3-point wager. You'll be entered to win a share of over $3.3 million in bonus bets. Download the Sportsbook app now to claim your profit boost. To enter, 21 and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, 18 and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Limit 1 entry. Profit boost. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost token. Prizes included as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat Connecticut. Or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. For Louisiana, call 1-877-770-7867. And also, do us a favor and smash that like button. It goes a long way in helping us in the algorithm. And drop a comment. Do you enjoy the combine? Were you paying attention? Are you enjoying this content? I always want to know. All right, Austin, let's get into the fallers. And I want to put 2 guys together first because you actually brought up a good point. I didn't have them initially in, but sometimes when you don't work out and you've been injured, now the questions, and you were off a long time, questions are like, okay, should we be worried here? And 2 of those guys, so Jordan Tyson was seen as like the top 3 receiver in that bunch of with Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate from Arizona State. He doesn't work out. Jermod McCoy, who like before his injury, the year before, he was like the top corner. And now I'm starting to think, because he didn't work out again, rather than being closer to Mansour Delane, I'm wondering if he's even going to go ahead of Avion Terrell, who looked fantastic running the drills. Like, he is fluid. And I know, like, his brother in Atlanta, AJ Terrell, he looked like $1 million. So Jordan Tyson, Jermod McCoy, wide receiver and corner, don't work out after long layoffs and injuries. And it's like, Is this now a medical thing? Obviously, there's ones that we don't hear about, but this is clearly a sign of like, wait a minute, you weren't ready to work out. That might be a problem.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing that the teams learn from the combine is just the medicals, right? And
Yes.
it's huge. And both of these, I think, to your point, McCoy was the number one cornerback, excuse me, coming into this year, and I think there's a good argument that if Jordan Tyson is 100% healthy, he might be wide receiver one. Like, I think he's firmly in that conversation. He was sixth on consensus big board like more than a month ago. He dropped down to 11th for me, and he's going to drop again. So, kind of reminds me of Will Johnson last year. You know, there was a little bit of trickling. It was later though. It wasn't after it was after the combine. He didn't really work out. It just trickled down. I think he was supposed to work out at the pro day, but he didn't work out at the pro day or something.
Yeah.
He ended up going in the second round,
Yes.
and that, like, there it is. Like, so I think this is one of the more kind of predictive things where you're like, okay, I a pretty good chance that McCoy and Tyson have bigger risk than kind of what the current big board and what the current landscape shows for them, because they didn't work out. That's a concern. We'll see with the pro day. That's kind of the next big step. If they don't work out at the pro day, then I mean, McCoy, like, is he a first round pick at that point? Tyson probably still will go because of the upside, but man, I don't know. It's how bad is it becomes the question, and you'll never truly know until draft night.
Yeah, that I you know what? I wasn't thinking. I was just thinking guys who measured badly, and you brought it up. No, we should talk about Jordan Tyson because not measuring is also like maybe even a bigger indictment. A lot was made, Austin, about short arms length, and you know what? I blame Will Campbell in the Super Bowl. He is now brought back into the spotlight. Offensive tackles and edge rushers and how long their arm length is, and we'll get to Reuben Bain later in the draft because I think that's a different discussion. But Cassius Howell, what was it? Smallest arms since 1999 in arm length.
Mm-hmm.
He was seen as the fourth edge rusher. He's already undersized, 6'2", 250. Now he's got short arms. He also, his vert and his broad, like his explosives were not good. The only thing that was good, and part of it is because he's light, was his 40-yard dash. I don't know, Austin. I had heard talks of like 12 in Dallas was in play, and I'm an Aggie fan, but I don't know. How sure are we that he's ahead of Keldron Falk or TJ Parker and Zion Young? Maybe it's like end of first now for Cassius Howell, or frankly, nobody with his arm length has been, basically taken in the top 100 picks. We might not, like, this might be an even more drastic fall.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to see, like, how much are these teams truly valuing arm length. If he does fall out of the first, it's going to be a pretty good amount. Definitely, because like we were saying, like, Keldrick Falk wasn't super productive. I think he's got some pretty good like bend in tape, and that's what people like about him. But like, he's probably the fourth edge now. Like, he's probably solidified himself as that. But then you get like Akeem Mesidor, TJ Parker, or Mason Thomas. Like, these guys are like, they have age issues, or just they've fallen over the year, or they tested poorly. Yeah, like the edge group is pretty like like Zion Young, he tested well. He'll probably be the one that might jump up for edge 4, edge 5. Like, I would have more faith in him than going over Howell almost at this point. If I had to bet like a coin flip, I feel like it's closer to a coin flip than I think we would have expected a week ago. So that we'll get to know. It's always hard to know how much these measurements matter and whatnot. But yeah, when you're not a like surefire prospect, and it's like, okay, well, short arms, well, I'll look past it. I think he's definitely going to fall over the next month. So that the edge group is a little uninspiring after the first couple.
I cannot bring myself to draft Mesidor in any mock drafts. I don't want a 25-year-old edge rusher. I don't want
like,
it.
I'm not saying you can't get a second contract at him, but like, you almost can't get a second contract.
No,
like,
not a real one. Not a real one.
Right. Yeah. Like what? It's tough. Like, your second contract, he's going to be older than Myles Garrett when he's going for his second contract. That's really, really difficult to find.
Yes. All right. One guy who I feel I was lied to about. I have a list before we head into combine. Okay, here's the guys I'm watching for, like my potential freak list, and I had this guy on the list. Because he told me, not me personally, but he said, I heard a quote, I'm going to run near a 4.4. This is what he said. And I'm like, okay, he's undersized. He needs to rip the 40. He measures in 6'2", 240, which is like, that's not an edge in this league. So I go, he needs an absolute burner 40. And then he runs a 4.67. His 10-yard split was worse than some tackles that run at 320 pounds. And I'm like, oh no, our Mason Thomas. This was a guy who I thought had a shot at the outside of the at the end of the first round, probably, top 5 pick in the second round. And now I'm like, I don't know that he's a top 45 pick anymore.
Yeah, same. He was a riser that I thought coming into the combine. If he tests well, he'll probably end up as a first round pick. And now it goes back to, again, test more.
Yes.
Like, he only did the 40. Why not? Like, you had a horrible 40 for your size. Like, again, this is relative. He's not a 260 pound edge, or like, it's a little bit different. This is like, when you're 240, it's like, are we even sure you can play early downs? Because can you defend the run? And he has this horrible, like, that's where, like, if I'm his agent, I'm like, I don't know, like, if you're in the stands or like, yo, you got to do the 3 cone now, like, like something
we need
to get your stock back up, like, because you just lost so much money. And like, again, maybe his testing numbers are bad, he would lose even more. Like, that begs the question, why didn't he do more? But yeah, when you're 240 pounds, you can't be running almost in the 4.7s. Like, that's, and again, if you want to run a 4.6 and you have a decent 10-yard split, which he didn't have a great one either, if your 3 cone drill and your short shuttle are good, like, okay, hey, you know what, we can live. He just doesn't have the speed, but like, when it comes to, bending and changing directions, he got it. We don't know right now. Doesn't have long arms, like, any of it. It was just, that's a puzzling, like, combine for me, and it'll be interesting to see what his pro day is. But it just blows my mind of why guys don't do more. Definitely when they have a bad 40.
I totally agree with you. Okay, 2 guys, and I think that these guys require true context because it's a lot more, complicated. Let's start with Spencer Fano, offensive tackle for Utah. And the first thing we notice, okay, his arm length. It's like, oh, here comes the Will Campbell conversations. And I got on board. I said, oh, I think he's going to be the 3rd tackle. Now, I didn't think he's going to have a drastic slide. I've always felt he will never get past Detroit because they have a need on the interior, and then he will eventually be the replacement for Taylor Decker. But then Austin, he goes out and has just great everything else. Truly good athlete. And so I was like, okay, his technique is very good. His film's probably the best of all the tackles. Short arms, but everything else was very good. And now I'm conflicted on what Spencer Fano is.
It'll be interesting to see how the teams deal with that too. It is weird when you, like, if he would have had average arms,
yes,
like, he might have cemented himself as the first tackle because his testing was awesome. Like, it wasn't quite, I guess, Monroe Freeling, but like, his testing was great except for the arm. That was the only thing. His whole combine previews. So I think what helps him is he does have, I think there's the willingness to go inside. Like, he's not just like, hey, I want to play tackle, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think he even did center drills at workouts at the combine.
Yes. They asked him to stick around. There's a few actually interesting names. I'm like, oh, that position versatility. Detroit needs that. They just released Glasgow. They need a center. So he's not falling out of the teens. Do you think he's still a top 10 pick? That's my question.
It'll depend, I guess, on so much. This like gets into game theory a little bit, where like if Freeling goes 6, and then if Malgo goes another pick earlier too, so like then everybody kind of gets slid up. So that'll be the interesting part. But the arms are a question. But one thing that does benefit, his wingspan is 3 inches longer than Will Campbell. So like, I guess he has broad shoulders, I guess. But so that, again, I'm not a offensive tackle coach. I don't know if like the arm length can be offset by your wingspan. In my head, it kind of makes sense, but if not, I get it. So that'll be something to watch. I'm with you. I think somebody will take it. The tape's too good, basically, too. I don't think when you have, like, this isn't like a measurement plus athleticism not there. This was like Will Campbell went 4th overall with short arms last year, right? And he didn't slide. So I just think it's like the tape is good, the athleticism's good, technique's good, all of that. Like, he's gonna be, I don't know if top 10. It's gonna depend on that, but I think, like, I feel like 10, 12. Like that's probably like his mean draft pick.
Yeah.
And just depends on if the tackle start, like if a tackle goes at 4, then he probably slots up a little bit, so.
All right. I remember my first time ever hearing about arm length. Do you remember Eric Winston?
A little bit, yeah. I don't.
Houston Texans. So this was maybe, I think he was drafted in like late 2000, so like maybe 2008, 2009. First
Okay.
time I ever heard the conversation of arm. I didn't know. I'm like getting into the combine. I was introduced by Mike Mayock. That was like my first iteration of what the combine was, and I didn't know arm length was a thing. And that was when I was like, oh, okay, some positions you get weird things that are absolutely important. Otherwise, you're drafting an outlier.
Mhm.
So here's one that's going to be, I guess, the biggest outlier. Sub 31-inch arms, although Adam Schefter may have been doing some overtime work for an agent who said a couple teams measured his arms 2 inches longer, which that is interesting. I guess the Miami Pro Day is gonna have to be much.
I will say the arm length they were all short this year. Like, so I don't know.
Heard that, yeah.
Yeah, and people were checking like Senior Bowl measurements. Like a lot of guys were like an inch off. So I think there is like a difference of where they started. I don't know whoever did it this year. Like it seemed like everybody was pretty short. So I'm interested to see how that goes in the pro day measurements and see like we're gonna have like 2.5 inch longer arms on some of these guys.
It reminded me that remember the first year the 40 time was done by someone different. Charlie, the old Houston GM.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then Olave runs like a 4.25. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Well, this thing's broken. Like this, because everybody was like low 4.3s. I'm like, okay. So, needless to say, Ruben Bain doesn't do any of their testing. He's 6'2", so he's got a weird body frame, but he's also only 260. So, like anybody who has thoughts of him playing inside, he's also
Probably
a little
not.
too light. So he's weird in that I need to see his measurables. He didn't do any of their testing. We need to re-look at his arm length. I guess his pro day, that Miami pro day, becomes all that much more valuable because I cannot take him out of. We were discussing where he could fall, and I said there's no way he makes it past the gauntlet of Washington, New Orleans, KC, and Cincy. That 7 to 10. There's no way Ruben Jane, and if he did by any chance, like Miami or Dallas at 11, 12, take him anyways.
Yes.
So I don't think it's like a drastic fall, but he's going to be the one where you're saying, all right, we're going to bet on an outlier because that sub 31-inch arms are a thing.
Yeah, I think the benefit here, and this is where you kind of have to marry the measuring and the testing with the tape, is pretty much everybody that I've seen that has studied him all year long is like he's adopted his play style to benefit his short arms. Like he doesn't need a long arm people to get around the edge. So like I think that's one benefit that I don't think will hurt. I think it's Dane Brugler that says like always trust your eyes, the film doesn't lie type of thing. Like a lot of like don't fall victim, but there is a question of it, like can it happen? But I think it's going to benefit him that he doesn't play that way. Like it wasn't like he was beating up on bad competition by using his arm length to win. He was winning other different ways there. So I think what it did was probably cement. I mean, David Bailey had a great combine as well. Probably cemented David Bailey and Arvell Reese as the top two edges.
It took it from a 3-horse race to now
two.
It's Bailey or Reese are going second.
It would be like if Bain would go at 3, I'd be pretty shocked just because of the arms. Definitely when Bailey did everything really, really well, and obviously as the tape is. So I think that's more of like he's not going to like you said. There's teams that are edge needy, not too far from where his draft range was coming into the combine. I don't think he's going to fall too hard. And then when we just talked about it, the edges afterwards, there's concerns there. So it's like, okay, we get one in the second round. Like it's a different same argument with the like it's a scarce position this year somehow. Like I feel like edge is always there's always guys that'll be there. So I don't think we'll fall too far, but that is the one benefit. I think the film kind of supports his short arm if you do want to invest in him.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. We'll get into so much more. Those were our risers and fallers, and We're going to take a look at Rob's mock draft in a second. But listen, if you're not in the Discord yet, you are missing out. Nearly 1,800 members. Discord.gg/hammer. See what you've been missing. And do us a favor, if you're not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notifications bell as well. We're going to be doing so much off-season content, including next week. Free agency opens, and we'll be all over that. All right, Austin, we're looking together at Rob's top 10. And all right, Fernando Mendoza, I don't have any issues with that. I don't think there's anything to discuss. David Bailey, second, just like we discussed. Arvel Reese. So Arizona, I think, has two clear needs: edge and offensive tackle. They're going to need a new right tackle. Jonah Williams is a free agent, and frankly, he wasn't very good. Do you like the idea of going edge here and then potentially waiting for an offensive tackle later? Or do you think they're gonna be tempted to take an offensive tackle here and try to give Mike LaFleur, an offensive line and give him some stability, because they're also probably bringing in a new QB?
Yeah, I do think it's kind of like a coin flip. I think it really come down to like, I think the question that it comes down to, if they're, if Mendoza and Bailey go 1-2, and if it's Reese or an offensive tackle, it's basically like, do we want a project in Reese? Because we don't know, like Reese wasn't a full-time edge rusher in college. So do they have time to kind of like let him figure it out for a year? Probably. I doubt they're seeing this as a contending year, but you never know. But I guess that's the question, is like Reese. But this is where I kind of segues into the next pick with Styles. But like Reese was automatically seen as like a linebacker edge, even though he played off-ball linebacker.
Yeah,
where Styles doesn't. So this is why Reese is so much higher. Obviously, the scouts and draft experts and everything are seeing that bend in him, and I think he probably has the highest ceiling of the Bailey in the Bain. But it's just he hasn't played the position, so that's why he's not, a lock for the first edge taken on the board.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know what? It also will depends on what they do in free agency. There's some interesting young edges in free agency that you can get probably in like that rotational price. I don't think anybody's like going to break the market. Whereas offensive tackle, outside of like Rasheed Walker, I don't know that there's
rough.
It's rough, which kind of leans me towards them maybe taking tackle at 3 and seeing if they can go get like a Boye Mafe in that, or Caleb Von Chason kind of in free agency. I guess free agency obviously will change all of this stuff. What about the Titans taking Sonny Styles? I've heard some strange things. I've heard them linked to Jeremiah Love. They also make the trade of moving Tavondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson. So like, I still think they need an edge. I don't think they have enough, but like the immediate impact of like needing one. And then there's also like Carnell Tate could fit here if they decide that they want a wide receiver 1. I don't know what to make about Tennessee's pick here.
Yeah, this one seems like the first true wild card. I know like Arizona's kind of, it seems like offensive tackle or edge for whomever's left. Like this Tennessee I feel like nobody has a real good feel of what they're doing. I personally, if they went Sonny Styles, I'd be very upset if I was a Titans fan. I don't know. Like, you're a Cam Ward guy. Like, are you excited?
No. I'm make a bet on them. I might slow down. Whoa, Nelly. Maybe not. We shouldn't make a bet on them.
Like they're just not. It's not quite as drastic as the running back conversation, where like you need to have like a good offensive line, a good quarterback to really get the running back, like cherry on type thing. But like, I don't think the Titans are anywhere near the roster to draft a linebacker here. And even if you think Style, I mean, maybe they think he can be the nickel, but I'd be pretty shocked that they don't go like, again, I think they could go like offensive line as well. Like everybody can kind of go offensive line. It always feels like, but edge feels
if Arvel Reese is there at 4, I don't know how they will pass on him.
Well, that's my thing. If Arvel Reese is there, like Sonny Styles cannot be discussed because like at the very least, if Arvel Reese can't stick it as an edge, it's like, okay, he can play off ball linebacker for us. Whereas like that's Sonny Styles' main position. So yeah, it's a weird pick. This is one like I don't know. New regime, Saleh. Like I know defensive guy, and it's interesting, but it feels like an edge would be better than Styles here.
Kind of like think about like Jermaine Johnson, Arvel Reese, They already have Jeffrey Simmons, kind of build up that D
Yeah.
line you want. Plus linebackers, there's actually some like Leo Chenal. There's some intriguing
Yeah.
names.
Always are. There always are.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Giants.
and Salah's a guy who doesn't want to blitz a ton. So like beefing up the defensive line, I think can be huge for him. Like
Well, he
that's
did it. He did it in New York, right? It was like Will
right.
McDonald was a first round pick, and Jermaine Johnson. Like he
Yeah.
he he was clearly targeting that D line in New York. Okay, Giants are interesting because I keep hearing them linked with Jeremiah Love, which I absolutely hate. But I just think, and I've seen like Caleb Downs being discussed here. But man, I think they need a tackle, man. It's just
Yeah.
other than Andrew Thomas, it is all very bad.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. If they get any of the tackles, basically at 5, I'm pretty.
Yeah.
FanDuel probably can't go there just because of his arms, but um, I'm good with this. Like they have a horrible offensive line, and they have Jackson Dart, who was banged up all year. He already plays a very living on the edge play style.
Yeah.
So I want that beefed up, figure out the running back and run game. At other times you have Malik Neighbors, go get an offensive tackle, solidify that.
Yeah.
Solidify your offense. Like if you think Dart's the guy and you can get a
Yeah.
second tackle, you're good.
A tackle helps your run game and your pass game. It's
Right.
like you get both. Cleveland, they're in the odd position where they might need 5 new offensive linemen. I know they have DeJuan Jones still there, but center Ethan Pochich, Wyatt Teller, Joel Petonio at guard gone. They're done with Jack Conklin and his like lack of availability. It has to be tackle here for Cleveland, right?
Yeah, I think no matter like there's even if the top 2 go, Monroe Freeling goes earlier and Malago is gone. Like I think Fanu has to be a choice as well
Yes.
because like you're talking about just like replacing the whole thing, but you also have the ability to like they're not competing this year,
Yes.
so you can chill out for a year and like make sure the progression is there and like you don't have to like throw them into the fire. Maybe you do throw them into the fire, whatever, but you can like it's easier to plan. It's not
Build the
like it
building
just seems like
blocks.
yeah, the defense is solid. I know it's a lot of it's Myles Garrett driven, but like Ruben Mayen has the small arms issue, like, and then you start getting Fano has a small arms issue. You start getting into it. If Freeling's there, it
Yes.
does. It feels right.
It reminds me of, do you remember Denver's first year with Sean Payton? Russell Wilson was the guy. He's clearly like, okay, we're not going to do anything this year. And I remember his first free agency. First of all, he goes and gets like Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. He had Garrett Bowles. They have Quinn Miners at guard. And it's just kind of like, let's just beef up our O-line, and then we'll worry about the quarterback in the next draft. And it kind of feels like that could be the right approach here.
It just helps you, right? Like it's like I know it's like old cliche, but like trench play is huge. If your defensive line can dominate, your back end can be a little leaky. If your offensive line can dominate, you don't need your quarterback to like look at Mahomes with the offensive line they had last year. He was running for his life and doing awesome stuff. Like imagine if they could get, a better offensive line. So it's like the opposite of that. Like, oh hey, we don't have a quarterback yet. There's not a quarterback for us to take at 6. Let's beef up the offensive line, make sure we're good for the whether they draft the quarterback this year or next year, whatever it is. Let's make sure we have the offensive line because we don't want them to end up like Geno Smith this year.
Yeah. Ruben Bain Jr. So they don't have a second round pick. So I think they're definitely a candidate to trade down. That being said, they could consider a receiver, given that Debo's leaving. Terry McLaurin is like, are you really going to go into year 3, 4, and 5 of that contract and his age? They might need the eventual replacement. O-line's not as, I don't think it's as pressing as people think. I think, Sam Cosmi being back healthy this year could help out. Their defense was atrocious. They didn't have a D-line. They also don't have any corners. I think they have a lot of options. Do they go with a Ruben Bain? Is Caleb Downs' talent too much to pass on? And could this be like as the earliest we might see a Mansour Delaney go in the draft?
Yeah, so that's what I was going down the list of like, they could be a surprise pick in like corner because they don't have any corners. They just let Lattimore go. I do think they're kind of sneaky for Carnell Tate. You have Jaden Daniels. Like, let's give him weapons and let's figure that out. I know Tate didn't run allegedly what he wanted to, but they're kind of a surprise. I wouldn't be shocked if they went Downs. I wouldn't like Ruben Baines, probably the smart pick there, right? But that's one of those ones where I think they can definitely make
I
some changes
I also
and
could see
switch it up.
Sonny Styles if he's there. This could be a spot
Yes.
where watch,
Yes.
because Dan Quinn loves that leader of the defense at
Yep.
linebacker. So, okay, the Saints are quite interesting because the Saints have a need at wide receiver outside of Chris Olave, so they're in play. They do need a running back, and Kellen Moore is an offensive guy, but they do have they don't have enough of a pass rush. Oh, the Saints are such a weird team. I think I wouldn't take Jeremiah Love.
No, I would not take Jeremiah Love.
Right. I think it fits or like technically it fits. Like I'd rather go my wide receiver one just from surplus value over a because Chris Olave also has to eventually get paid. So a wide receiver one helps you now, but also might be avoid you having to pay Olave $30 million with his health history.
Right. Yeah. And they've had cap issues, right? They pushed everything in the future forever.
Yes.
And you're now going to get a guy who basically you can't get that much surplus value out. Even if he could come in and be the best running back in the league, and it still just doesn't quite hit the same as if you got, even if you went Spencer Fano here, like I would be okay with it. Like, any premium position I would go for. I know Love is great. You're just not going to get the value out of him in at least probably the first 3 years of his contract. And then you're adding in the fact that Tyler Shuck's old. And it's like, if there's, I understand quarterbacks can play for longer, but like by the time Jeremiah Love's around to getting paid, which is hard to get a second contract, like Tyler Shuck's going to be 30, 31. So like you're an old team, or like get younger with some better players. I would go, you have to go premium position. That's how bad that roster is. But I don't know if I've seen anybody not put Jeremiah Love to the Saints. It feels like that's if Jeremiah Love's available, it's like he's a lock to go 8 by every mock draft that I've seen.
Like if I was GM, I think
I can't do it.
No, I'm trying to think of like I wouldn't want him to Miami, to Dallas, to the Rams at 13. I wouldn't want him to the Ravens at 14, the Bucks at 15. I wouldn't want him to the Jets at 16. I wouldn't want him to the Lions at 17. At 18, the Vikings have way too many other problems that they should not be spending on. Like, I don't know where I would probably early to mid 20s is the first time I'd consider. And if it's a team that's so close to a title, I'm just, I guess, anti-drafting running backs high.
Yeah. I am too. And like Kansas City would be kind of interesting just because like they have Mahomes to like maybe cover up some of the issues that like Love would have on a bad team, but like they have other issues. They need to go elsewhere.
They have money issues and they need a tackle. If Fano's there, that's got to be tempting. Maybe a premium edge rusher to pair with Karlaftis, who isn't probably living up to his contract. If Ruben Bain falls there, they almost have the ability to. Who's the best player at a premium position that falls to us? Could be their like. I don't want them touching Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love, who are like not premium positions. I hope they don't like. I hope you would trust their brain trust to make a better decision than that.
Yeah, I think I'd be more okay with Downs just because I think Downs can be that big nickel in that versatility piece, and with Spags' defense, like I can at least be sold on the like, hey, he can like they say he's one of the smartest players in the draft. He was played immediately at Alabama, transferred to Ohio State. Their defenses were great. Like everything about him is like this guy is incredible, and like Jeremiah Love is too. But it's just safety can be more valuable if you can become now he's not a huge guy, but if you can become the Kyle Hamiltons, the Derwin James, we saw with Nicky Memori with the Seahawks this year, like that is more enticing to me. Like this whole notion that like the Chiefs were bad this year because their run game wasn't there. Like that is an offensive line issue. Like I understand that like their running backs weren't amazing, but their offensive line wasn't good either. And it wasn't good pass protection because Mahomes was running for his life the whole year. So I would be, Jeremiah Love would anger me if I was a like just as an NFL fan, I don't want to see the Chiefs go that route.
My wild card here would be defensive tackle Caleb Banks, who I thought like was a freak. His measurables
Yes.
were kind of, and I'm like, maybe that's the Chris Jones long-term replacement,
Mm-hmm.
especially because
Yeah.
Chris Jones is so close to the end and he carries a heavy price tag.
You talk about positions that don't have many high-end options,
Yes.
interior defensive line, and it's
Yes.
premium. So it'll be very interesting. Caleb Banks, he was injured this year, but he came back at the end of the year instead of just focusing on the draft. I think teams will like that. I could see him being a riser over the next 6 weeks after a ridiculous combine. He had a big combine, but the tape wasn't there for the last year, so that makes it tough. But
I know.
I could see it. I could see it.
You know what? The Seattle like getting there with like Leonard Williams, and then the Pats signing Milton Williams, and like it's almost like the copycat league. Oh, D tackles are valuable again if you can get a high end one.
They've been there. Like it's like Aaron. I think the Aaron Donald and Chris Jones thing kind of changed it for people. It was like, oh, you don't have to have premium edges if you have a premium D tackle, because interior pressure is the worst kind of pressure. So like if you can get a guy that disrupts it, and also they have to be able to play against the run as well. But this draft is light, on D tackles, so that'll be interesting to see if anybody gets pulled up. And Caleb Banks for sure, I think, is D tackle one in this draft. So that would be an interesting little pair with Chris Jones getting up there.
That's why a couple guys like DeMonte Capehart and like Zane Durant, who had like freak show.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, day 3 tackles, defense tackles. Maybe they're day 2 tackles now, just because I don't love all the other options. All right, last one, Cincinnati. This is interesting to me because at first I poo-pooed it when he first sent it to me. And I said, I thought about, because I said, Orlando Brown and Amarius Mims are not bad at tackle. But then I said, you could play Fano at guard. And then once Orlando Brown's contract, which is soon, becomes untenable, Spencer Fano is the replacement. And it's like from that perspective, it's actually a lot smarter than I really was first. Because I was in the mood of like, since he's got an awful defense, they need they need Caleb Banks, they need Ruben Bain, they need something on defense. And then I'm like, maybe Spencer Fano if he's there. He's a pretty interesting. I don't mind this pick for them.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think the transition of play a guard for a year or two and figure it out from there. It's also like we've seen this with the Cowboys with Tyler Smith, right? Where you just like, I know he went later, but like injuries happen. So like if you have a guy that can slide out and not like as a swing tackle, like he's your guard, like it's much easier to get depth in the interior. So I don't mind it. Burrow's been hurt a lot. Keep him upright, like, lean into a little bit of that defensive variance. Try to go like kind of the like Rams route. I know they drafted first in the first round and invested, but like try to find like patch up the defense and not try to build it all back in 1 year type of thing, and just make sure the offense is
that's
elite.
When they did it best in 2020 when it was like a Chidobe Awuzie and a bunch of 1-year contracts. That was the year. And frankly, Duke Tobin cannot draft a first-round edge rusher if his life depended on it. He is like, everyone is awful. Like they're not even like bad in the sense that they don't hit their ceiling. They don't even give you a floor. Like Shamar Stewart and all these guys have completely flopped.
Yeah. And like you go through it and like, there's just not a lot of options with like, if after those edges we talked about, the edges aren't there. The cornerback is not a like surefire. Like, do you want to pick a top 10 pick on a corner that's not really like a top 10 talent? I know there's guys that are creeping in on it. And then you don't need a wide receiver, which is where kind of the value range comes for a couple of guys like Lemon and Tyson. So it gets weird. Like I like they won't do it, but like a fun pick would be Kenyon Sadiq. That would be like, see, if you just want to go full gas, like we're going to score 34 points a game. Like that would be fun.
He's a toy, right? He's like the fun toy. And you start looking in that 10 to like 18 range, which offense could, like Detroit adding a Kenyon Sadiq could be a fun little toy.
Yes.
Given that Sam Laporta hasn't kind of been what they thought for a while. And even Baltimore, if Baltimore doesn't love any of the receivers, maybe Sadiq is the guy. Like that's where the conversation starts with him. All right, let's leave it there, Austin. You know what the mistake was? I told you beforehand, you and I will do this in about half an hour. I forgot. When you and I get in the room to talk football, Austin, There's no way.
Just goes long.
There's no mark that we're ever gonna hit. It's impossible. We blow past it. Let's give Rob a B minus. First B minus is good.
I thought it was good. It's always hard with like mock drafts. Is he trying to predict what the teams are going to do, or is it like what he would do? You always have to. It's always hard to know. Is he doing what he?
Rob's not taking Sonny Styles 4th overall.
Right. So if you're predicting, that's probably the only pick that was really. But again, that's like domino effect a little bit. But that's the only one that really kind of shook me a little. That would be, which again, bad teams do bad things. So maybe the Titans will fall into that trap.
I think Rob, who says he doesn't watch the combine, watch the combine. He got a little Sonny Styles crush.
He's reading up after the combine, that's for sure.
Yeah. His brother was even a bigger, his brother tested as a safety. He was a freak too.
Yeah. 428.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. What a family. All right, we'll leave it there. Austin, thank you for your time and analysis. That's it for us. We got Hammered Daily tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Thanks to Pascal for producing. Thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel. Thanks to the audience. You guys have been wonderful all year. Have a good night, everyone. See you next time right here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel.